Yeah. Thanks.
That the gem person at Dave's Nutrition, that store is ridiculous. You can get gems and jewels and one side and another. Right. Well, they changed it up. So the left side of the building is all the stones, gems, and crystals, and then the entire right side of the store is the nutrition. But actually, they do have a table of something that you eat every month on the other side. But, and then this is a pearl. So I've got all my, help me stay calm, help me heal. So you heard from Justin, what's going on over the East Coast. How did you get here? Couldn't have done it better. That's great. Might as well hang out. Well, they did just as a great job with Dad as they did with Mom. He's got that little smile on his face. Love it. It is the best.
detail post. ready to begin the service?
Is this on? It is? Okay. I feel like I should be very formal after the Marines were just here, you know. Quite an honor. Well, I'd like to welcome everybody here this afternoon. You can't hear me, can you? Okay. I'd like to welcome everybody here this afternoon. My name is Sue Smith, and I'm a member of the Eckankar clergy, and I welcome all of you here who've come today to honor the life of John Richard Otto and to share our love for him. As some of you know, John was a member of Eckankar, which is referred to as the path of spiritual freedom. And John came through our common interest in the Ek community, came to know him over these many years. Jen and Emily and Kimberly and a few of the sisters have met the last week or so, have asked me to do this service today, and it's been such an honor and a privilege to be here, especially after meeting all of you. You know, we've always seen John in our spiritual study classes and heard so much about so many things in his life. Always he spoke with a smile, and always he spoke with real love of whatever it was back in his early days or about his family or whatever it was. And then after meeting the family, I can see that tradition is being carried on. So the first time I met Jen and Bob, Anita and I, when they left, we thought, now they wanted to be sure that John got what was needed for him for this celebration. And that devotion and respect for his belief, as well as showing their own devotion and respect for their own beliefs, was just really very, very dear to me. So it's a privilege to be here. So we'll begin the service in this way. Ek is a life force, the Holy Spirit, or audible life current, which sustains all life. This Ek memorial service is about the nature of life, death, love, and the journey of soul. John is soul, an eternal individual spark of God who can never die, but who has left this arena of life for a new one. We are here to celebrate the time we shared with John and to open our hearts to a richer understanding of our common spiritual journey. Each person is a divine being who comes to earth on life, comes to life on earth with a spiritual purpose. Lifetime after lifetime, soul grows in love and grace, ultimately to become a co-worker with God. A lifetime is a precious gift, an opportunity for spiritual growth and service to others. Most of all, life brings soul the purity of love, compassion, and grace. Each one of us travels a path of spiritual unfoldment only partly visible to others. This is the secret inner life side of our life, our private communion with God. In Eckankar, we believe that God, or Sugmad, sends each soul into life to discover itself as a divine being walking holy ground. Soul is never without the twin aspects of God, the light and sound of Ek, also known as the Holy Spirit. The light is to show us what must be overcome, and the sound calls our hearts home to God. The spiritual leader of Eckankar, the Mahanta, the living Ekmaster, serves as our companion and guide on this journey. The Mahanta, the living teacher, leads us into the light and sound, forever reminding us that soul exists because God loves it. Birth and death mark the journey of soul. The translation from one stage of experience to another is but a further step on soul's journey home to God. And now I'd like to open it up. If anyone would like to share a remembrance of John, your time with him, early days, recent days. He has quite the life, so please don't rush the stage. Kimberly, okay.
Thanks, Sue.
You're welcome.
Thank you very much. Hi, I'm Kimberly, daughter number 4 of 5. So I didn't really prepare anything specific. I just want to acknowledge and share my parents and how lucky we were as a family to have them as parents. They were married for 70 years, and there were lots of ups and downs and lots of different stages that we went through. We moved around a lot. We probably moved more than a half a dozen times as a family, with my mom always supporting my dad wherever his job took him. But what I remember most about my parents, especially my dad, was the humor. They instilled in us a perspective of life that allows us to not take ourselves too seriously, I hope, and to be kind and to listen to each other. And that's what I remember best. Thank you. And now I think maybe Bob has a couple of stories to tell. My dad loved to tell stories. We've got one or two.
Unfortunately, I only knew John for less than the last 20 years of his life. I wish I had known him for longer than that. During that time, though, he really took the initiative to make me part of the family. Ginny did too. And my parents had passed away in 2001 and 2002, and they never met them. And I know that if they had, they would have been dear friends. But John and Ginny accompanied Jen and me to Washington, D.C., and some of the pictures you've seen up here are from that trip. I had a seminar there every spring. In fact, that's one right there at one of the memorials at Arlington. And often when we went on these trips with family members, Jen would go with the family members to all of the museums and the memorials around the mall during the 2 days that I had to be in classes. And they saved, on this occasion, Saturday, for me to go to Arlington with them, because John had never been there. He had been through Washington back in World War II when he was passing through, but had never stopped there, and had never seen the Iwo Jima Memorial. And as you all may know, especially if you've read the obituary, John was on Iwo Jima from the landing of the second wave all the way through that campaign. And as I understand from the earlier parts of his life, he never shared stories about that. He didn't talk about his service because it was something that he did because he had to do it, and he left it behind when he came back to have his life with his family and his 5 daughters and to have all that fun with them. But as he got older, he paid more attention to it. And one of the stories that he told there, I'll tell 2 of them very quickly. I've already talked too long. We were walking, if you know Arlington Cemetery at all, marine carillon, which is called the Netherlands carillon because it was given to the United States by the Netherlands. And it's surrounded by tulips. They're to the right, and to the right of that is the Iwo Jima Memorial as you're approaching. And we walked through the tulips outside the carillon, and the trees have now grown up around the Iwo Jima Memorial. They are large, and when they are leafed out and blooming, and this was in April, so the blooms were fading and the leaves were coming out, you can't really see through them, and you can't see the memorial. And as we approached, John and I were walking ahead of Ginny and Jen, who were behind us, and just talking about what we were seeing. And as we walked under the trees and he could see the memorial, he stopped. And he did this thing that was sort of sucking on his teeth when he was thinking. And he was standing there with his hands behind his back, kind of looking at the memorial, sucking on his teeth. And I was standing just right off his right shoulder. And he said, "I'm going to walk around to the other side because that's where I was when they did this." And I still get chills. Whenever I say those words, I get chills. And then he told the story about how when the initial flag raising occurred, which some of you may know this story, it was on a makeshift pole and a small flag that one of the soldiers had in their backpack. And apparently there was an admiral on one of the ships offshore who thought that a larger flag should be displayed because you couldn't see it very well from the ships and it would raise everyone's morale. So he arranged for a larger flag to be sent ashore and arranged for the raising of that flag, which is memorialized in the Rosenthal photo, which became the memorial. And the flag leans one way depending on which side you're looking at it from, and John knew it from the side where the flag is leaning to the right instead of to the left, which is the back side of it. And apparently what they did was gather together the people who were involved in the battle, but were close enough to where the flag was being raised, because the battle really wasn't over yet. There was still movement back and forth, although they had secured the summit. So they gathered them all together, which is against their training. They were standing on an open hillside, down below, out of sight where the photograph was being taken, in ranks for their morale. And they were terrified. Then they were angry because this was being done for some big admiral over there in a ship, and they were all putting their lives at risk for a flag raising. And he said that as soon as it was finished and they were dismissed, they silently filtered away back into battle. So that's one of the stories he told. And then the other one, which shows the humor in his lifetime, was that he, toward the end of the campaign, they were having some difficulty with snipers. Because most of the island had been captured, most of the Japanese troops had been either captured or killed, and they had control of most of the island, but there were still many tunnels and caves and places that some of the Japanese soldiers were still hiding, and they had some snipers. So they were out in a hot day in their foxholes and just giving each other grief back and forth from their foxholes and trying to stay down. And apparently one of John's comrades said something to him that caused him to pop his head up out of his foxhole to look over to where he was. And as he did that, a bullet took his hat off his head. And it fell into the foxhole. The day we were at Arlington, he was actually wearing a fatigue cap, which I think you've seen in those pictures, which he bought to replace that in his recollection of that as he was getting ready to go to Arlington. And he said that it made him so angry that this was his favorite hat, that he stood up and knowing where it came from because of where the hat fell, he gave the one-finger salute to where it came from. And he said then he felt something go by his finger. And because of what he did, this is his story, and I think it's a wonderful story, and I believe it is true. The other comrades were looking in the direction he was looking when he was giving the salute, and they saw the muzzle flash, and they were able that night to stop their sniper problem. So as John said as we were walking away, we tell our children that they really should maintain control of their emotions. And he said, but sometimes getting angry is just the right thing to do. So that's his humor, and I'm glad you were able to laugh. Thank you.
Thank you, Kimberly and Bob. Well, is anyone else Carlos, you have a story. Okay.
So John and I and Jennifer, we did a lot of classes together with John. One time we went camping. I don't know if you went on the camping trip or not, down to Moab.
Yeah, I went there.
And we're going through the park, and John's got this special music that he put on for us. It was kind of eerie. It was all instrumental. And it made the trip magical. And we set up the pop-up trailer, and he had one side, I had the other side, and we went hiking the next day, came back, and John was in great shape. I was doubled over trying to get into the bed, so I was out of shape. But every time I saw John for the first time, there was always a smile on his face. And he'd laugh. And if I called him on the phone, I'd hear that smile through the laughter. That's the only one I'm going to tell.
Thank you, Carlos. I was also in some of John's study classes with Carlos and Jen and some others here. And when I first met John, I have to admit he intimidated me just a tad. I don't know why. He was very, I don't know, confident or something. And maybe I wasn't. But about 4 or 5 years ago, I think it was, we were in class, and I think Ginny was having a difficult time health-wise or something. And Carlos, who was the teacher of that class, asked, "Hey, John, let me know if you need any help or with Ginny or anything I can do." And John looked over with his usual smile and says, "I'm okay. That's my job. I'll take care of her." And that moment on, that guy, John, was just tops in my book. I mean, just the way he just said that was just total love. And we said, okay, you got it. So that's what he really was like. Nothing for me to be afraid of. Okay, well, next we have a special treat. Eric Johnson is here, and he'll just need a couple minutes to set up. He has a song that he'd like to play that he's written for the guitar, and it's called "My Soul Goes for a Walk," which is pretty appropriate for this service and for the theme of this service. And while he's setting up, I wanted to share that Anita and I were looking at the pictures over there, or I think it was Anita and Sherry, and we saw their wedding picture. And we said, gee, look at that picture. At the time of that day, did they know what all was going to happen with them? How many places they would go, how many children they would have, and where they would end up? What an extraordinary and wonderful story for our life. You about ready with this? Completely unrehearsed.
So before I do this, there's a story. a story. So I just started playing a few years ago, and I didn't know that John was a musician. Like, so I decided when, I guess it was during the COVID time, John and Ginny were all holed up in their place, and Jennifer and I decided to go over and have dinner with them. And I thought, well, I'll bring some music with me. And knowing the age of John and Ginny, I decided I'm going to look up some songs. And, you know, I like the old crooners myself anyway. And I had friends I grew up with that were professional singers of Sinatra and all that stuff. And so I grabbed some songs, and I learned them. And I went over to John and Ginny's, and they didn't know that we were coming. They'd forgotten. So it was a big surprise. You know, everybody's totally dressed down, and Ginny was wonderful. She, you know, she didn't recognize us because we'd met her for many years, and she's just got this big old smile on her face, and she's so happy. And John was grateful that I showed up. And so we had dinner, and then we sat down and started playing some music. And it was the best time I have ever had. The best time I've ever had playing music. Because Ginny's sitting back in her chair, laughing with this huge smile on her face, just soaking up every song I sang. And John has tears rolling down his eyes because I guess he hadn't had live music in I don't know how long. And I'm playing all these old songs that he was familiar with. And it was really fun. And I just loved playing. And so I had written a song for Eckankar a couple years ago. And I just added a new verse last night, just for John. My soul goes for a walk at night while I lay sleeping. In the morning it returns with messages of love and meaning. In the middle of the day I get nudges from God and the hunter to guide me on the path that I've been dreaming of. So sing Hugh, sing Hugh, sing Hugh, sing Hugh, sing Hugh. Sing Hugh. soul goes for a walk between my lives of learning. In my new life it returns with messages of love and healing. In embracing this new phase, I get nudges from God and the guide me on the path that I've been dreaming of. So sing Hugh, sing Hugh, sing Hugh, sing Hugh, sing Hugh. Sing Hugh, sing Hugh, sing Hugh, sing Hugh, sing Hugh, sing
Thank you.
Thank you, Eric. Very beautiful. Okay, we have a couple of readings to share with you this afternoon. I'll ask Carlos to come up with the first one, which is a reading written by Harold Klemp, who is the spiritual leader of Eckankar, and it comes from the Golden Heart book.
Sri Harold Klemp, the Mahanta, the living Ek Master, was once asked, what is the transition like when we leave here at death and go to the next place? Sri Harold's response, recorded in the Golden Heart Mahanta transcript, Book 4, was as follows. In most cases, as we make the transition, we are totally unconcerned about it. As bright as the sunlight appears to our eyes, this physical world is a dark, small, mean place compared to the other worlds. You will see settings similar to those on Earth, but larger and with a lot more light. There will be a likeness and a spontaneity about the body that you wear. Soul is more, again, wearing a body. But it is on a higher plane. It is so natural that generally you don't give it a second thought. And you are always greeted by someone you know and love. For people who love truth and love God, it's a small change, very smooth. The key really is love.
Thank you, Carlos. second reading I'll do, and it's from The Stranger by the River by Paul Twitchell, who is the modern-day founder of Eckankar. And he is being taught by Master Rebazar Tars, who tells a spiritual seeker about the life of soul throughout eternity. Fill thyself with light, and death cannot overtake thee. Ask God for the light and sound to live in peace. Be humble and see that soul be filled with the simplicity of love. Then thine own true self, the divine spark, which is truly thee, will alone endure, and the rest of thee will be discarded in order to realize the real self, which is thine own true self. If you know that death is only an illusion, then there is little need for thee to have cause for fear. Truth sustains you, and this clay body is dissolved when the physical body wears out. But the soul, which owes its origin, life, and growth to God, will remain forever in the highest mansion of the Lord. God loves and takes special care of those who love him with all their heart and soul, and gradually draws them toward himself, the center of pure light. There, my son, is love. The love that makes all things beautiful, yes, and breathes divinity into the very dust you tread. With love shall life roll on gloriously throughout eternity, like the voice of great music that has power to hold the hearer's heart poised on eagle's wings far above the earthly world. Okay. Things to think about. I'd like to close the former part of the service with a hymn, and you've heard the hymn throughout this afternoon, and I know that the family's been singing the hymn and sharing the hymn with John for the last several weeks. So this memorial service has been a time for us to celebrate the journey that has brought John closer to God. So we'll close by singing hymn, a love song to God, to reawaken our hearts to the blessings of life. This is generally sung sweetly in one drawn-out note like this. You. And you'll sing it again and again. When you sing hymn with love, your heart fills with the light and sound of God. So I invite you to join in singing this sacred name of God. Afterward, we'll spend a moment or two in a quiet contemplation. So to get ready, if you'd like to hew, you can hew out loud or silently, eyes opened or closed. We'll start maybe with a deep breath, and we'll start singing hymn. We'll hew for maybe 15 times, 12 times, something like that. And we'll have a minute or two of quiet. And then I'll end it with, may the blessings be. So let's just get comfortable. May the blessings be. I thank all of you for sharing your love for John today. He lives in our hearts and in the heart of God. Again, may the blessings be. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, everybody. That does conclude the services for today. Thank you on behalf of the family for coming to support them.
And if anyone would like to join us, my dad would like to take us over to the Olive Garden, which was his favorite restaurant, and have a little celebration. It's over on 13th East in like 2100 South, right? 20, why am I looking?
Don't look at me. I don't even know where it is in Minnesota.
Yeah, it's just off the freeway.
It's in Sugar House, about
In Sugar House.
1300
Yeah, so
East. Yeah.
we'll head over there in, I don't know, 15 or 20 minutes.
Okay,
Okay?
you guys are welcome.
So please join us. I better call them and tell them we're coming.
Yeah, right. Party of 75.
And then we're gonna play a 75.
Thank you. Yeah, we're waiting.
Oh, I'd love to go to the garden, but I keep managing her.
Oh, thank you, really, thank you so much. And I know how much it meant to you to come and see him. Not that we didn't know at first they were. They were. Yeah, right. Yeah, I see, again, he didn't plan, but he talked about it, you know. Talked about it, and about how, you know, how she was friends would come over, and they would play, and the girls would all be like under the kitchen table, you know, in the middle of all of them, you know, staying up late with them, so they usually went, right, exactly. Right, exactly. They went to listen to them. I was so scared during the interview, you know, because being a musician himself, you know, and yeah, exactly. He said, you know, afterwards I was kicking myself because I didn't ask him any of the questions that I really wanted to ask. They were all sort of routine questions that you ask to start, and he said it was a worthless interview. he said, you know, I had that opportunity and somehow I just, you know, I phoned it in. Is the way he put it.
I got to because I grew up